The planet had no name anymore. The humans had called it New Eden when they first arrived. They had built homes and planted gardens. They had laughed and danced under 2 pale moons. But that was before the war came. Now it was just ash and broken stone. Lord flew slowly over the dead colony. His massive wings blocked the sun as he passed. He was the Dragon King of Prime, ruler of 12 star systems and master of the ancient flame. His scales were black like the void between stars. His eyes burned gold like dying suns. For 3,000 years he had watched lesser species rise and fall. He felt nothing for them. The war between humans and the Empire had lasted only 6 months. It ended here on this small world when the dropped fire from the sky had watched from his throne far away. He did not care who won. Humans and were both insects to him. They lived such short lives. They built such small things. They meant nothing. But his advisors had asked him to inspect the ruins. They wanted to claim this system. They needed the Dragon King's approval, so had come to see what remained. Nothing remained. The buildings were all destroyed. The ships were all burned. The bodies lay still in the streets, landed in what was once a town square. His great claws cracked the broken ground. The smell of death was everywhere. He breathed out a small flame, burning the air clean. Then he heard it. A sound small and weak, a cry in the darkness. Turned his massive head. His golden eyes scanned the ruins. Dragons had perfect hearing. They could hear a heartbeat from a mile away. This sound was close, very close. He walked toward a fallen building. Each step shook the ground. His tail swept away broken walls like they were made of paper. And there, under a broken roof, he found them. A man lay dying on the ground. His body was broken. Blood covered his face. He was young for a human, maybe 30 years old. His name was, he had been a farmer before the war came. He had grown rice and vegetables in the red soil of New Eden. He had a wife named. She died in the first attack. But was not alone. A small girl was holding him. She could not be more than 5 years old. Her face was dirty with dust and tears. Her small hands gripped her father's torn shirt. She was crying, not screaming, just crying, soft and broken, like she had been crying for days. Stared at them. In 3,000 years he had seen many things. He had watched stars die. He had burned entire fleets with his flame. He had made emperors bow before him. But he had never stopped to look at something so small, so weak, so human. The man opened his eyes. He saw the dragon standing over him. He saw the gold eyes and the black scales. He saw death itself looking down at him. Any other creature would have begged for mercy. Any other creature would have screamed. Did not scream. He looked at his daughter. He touched her face with a shaking hand. Then he looked back at the dragon. "Please," said, his voice was barely a whisper. "Not her, take me, burn me, I do not care, but please, not her." Felt something strange. A feeling he had not felt in a very long time. He did not know what to call it. "Why should I spare her?" asked. His voice was deep like thunder. "She is nothing, a small creature on a dead world. She will not survive the night." Tried to sit up. He could not. His body was too broken, but his eyes were clear, strong, unafraid. "Because she is everything," said. "She is my daughter, she has her mother's eyes and her grandmother's laugh. She loves to sing songs about the rain. She believes that flowers can talk to each other. She is 5 years old and she has already lost everything. But she is still holding my hand. She is still here. That is not nothing. That is everything." Looked at the small girl. She was looking back at him. Her tears had stopped. She was not screaming. She was not running. She just looked at him with her dark, round eyes, and in those eyes saw something he had never seen before. He saw no fear. No, that was not right. There was fear. She was afraid. Of course she was afraid. A monster was standing over her dying father, but she did not look away. She did not hide. She held her father and stared at the dragon like she was daring him to try something. Had faced armies. He had faced other dragons. He had faced gods. None of them had looked at him like this small human child was looking at him now. "She is brave," said. He did not know why he said it. Smiled, blood was on his teeth. "She is human," he said. "We are all brave when we have something to protect." Thought about this. He thought about his own kind. Dragons were born alone. They lived alone. They died alone. They protected nothing because they needed nothing. They were strong because they had no weakness. But humans were weak. They died so easily. And yet this dying man was not thinking about himself. He was thinking about his daughter. He was using his last breath to beg for her life. "What is your name?" asked the man. "My name is." "You are dying." "I know." "Your people are all dead." "I know." "There is no one left to take care of this child." Closed his eyes, a tear ran down his face. "I know," he whispered, "but maybe someone will find her. Maybe someone will be kind, maybe." He did not finish. He could not. His breath was getting slower. His hand and grip was getting cold. Began to cry again. She said, "Father, wake up, please." Watched. He had seen death many times. He had caused death many times, but he had never watched a child lose her father. He had never heard that sound, that wail, that small, broken sound that seemed to shake the very air around them. His eyes opened one last time. He looked at his daughter. He smiled. He said, "My brave girl, my beautiful brave girl, I love you. Your mother loves you. We will always love you. Don't go, please don't go. Be brave like I know you are, and never forget that you are not alone. Someone will find you, someone will love you, I promise." Then looked right at him, and in that last moment felt like the man could see right through him, see past the scales and the flame and the 3,000 years, see something that even had forgotten was there. "Please," whispered. And then he was gone. Screamed, she threw herself on her father's chest. She cried and cried. Her small body shook with the force of her grief. She was alone now, completely alone, on a dead world, with a monster standing over her. Stood still, he could leave, he should leave. This was not his problem, this was not his world, this was not his child, he was the Dragon King. He did not care about humans, he did not care about anyone. But he did not leave. He watched the small girl cry. He watched her hold her dead father. He watched her grief and her pain and her terrible, terrible loneliness. And something inside him moved, something old and forgotten, something that he thought had died long ago. Slowly, very slowly, lowered his great head. He brought his face close to the crying child. She looked up at him. Her eyes were red and swollen. Her face was wet with tears. She looked so small, so fragile, so alone. "Child," said, his voice was softer now, still deep, still powerful, but softer. "What is your name?" She stared at him. She did not run. She did not scream. She just looked at him with those dark, brave eyes. She said, her voice was shaking, "My name is." Nodded. Then very carefully he extended one massive claw. It was bigger than her entire body. It could crush stone. It could tear metal. But he moved it gently, so gently, and touched her small hand. He said, "Your father asked me to help you. I do not know why I listened. I do not know what I am doing, but I will not leave you here alone." Looked at his claw, then she looked at her father, then she looked back at the dragon. And then slowly, she wrapped her tiny fingers around his claw. Felt something break inside him. Something cold and hard that he had built around his heart for 3,000 years. He did not know what was happening to him. He did not understand this feeling. But when the small human girl held his claw and looked up at him with trust in her eyes, he knew one thing for certain. He was not going to let her go. The Dragon King of Prime picked up the human child. He held her against his chest, careful not to hurt her with his scales. She was so warm, so small, so alive. And as he spread his wings and flew into the sky, leaving the ruins behind, he wondered what he had just done. He had just changed everything. The flight to Prime took 3 days. Flew through the black space between stars, his wings carrying him faster than any ship. He did not need to breathe in space. He did not need to eat or sleep. He was a dragon. He was made of older stuff than flesh and bone. But the child in his arms was not. Slept most of the way. Her small body was tired from crying. She was weak from hunger. She had not eaten in days, did not know what humans ate. He had never cared before. But now he found himself stopping at a small trading station, hiding the child under his wing while he bought food from a frightened merchant. The merchant was he looked at with terror in his eyes. Everyone looked at that way. "What does a human child eat?" asked. The merchant stared at him. He did not understand the question. Why would the Dragon King ask about human food? "Rice," the merchant said quickly. "Bread, fruit, water, please, my lord, take whatever you want, just do not burn my station." Took the food. He did not pay. He did not need to. He was the Dragon King. Everything in his territory already belonged to him. When he returned to the child, she was awake. She looked at the food with wide eyes. She was so hungry, but she did not grab for it. She waited. "What are you waiting for?" asked. "Always said to say thank you before eating," said. Her voice was small and sad. "Thank you." She ate slowly at first, then faster. She drank the water like she had been in a desert, watched her. He had never watched anyone eat before. It seemed like such a strange thing, such a weak thing, needing food to survive. But watching her eat, watching the color come back to her cheeks, felt something. Satisfaction, pride. He had kept her alive. He had done something good. The feeling was strange. He was not sure he liked it. They reached Prime on the 3rd day. The planet was beautiful and terrible. Mountains of black crystal rose from red seas. Rivers of fire flowed through valleys of stone. The sky was always dark, lit only by 3 burning moons. His palace sat on the highest mountain. It was carved from a single piece of obsidian, black and shining. 10,000 dragons lived in the cities below. They were his subjects, his people. They had followed his family for 100 generations. When landed at the palace gates, the guards stared at him. They stared at what he was carrying. "My lord," one guard said, "he was a young dragon with silver scales. What is that?" A human said, "A child, she will be staying here." The guard looked confused. He looked at the other guards. They all looked confused. "My lord, humans are not allowed on Prime. It is the law, your law." Felt his flame rise in his chest. "I am the law," he said. "Do not question me." The guards bowed and stepped aside. Walked into his palace, the small girl still held against his chest. She was awake now. She was looking at everything with wonder in her eyes. "It's so big," she whispered. "It is my home," said. "It's scary." Looked down at her. "Are you afraid?" Thought about it. "A little," she said, but said being brave means being afraid and doing things anyway. Did not know what to say to that, so he said nothing. The throne room was the largest room in the palace. The ceiling was so high that clouds formed near the top. The floor was made of polished black stone that reflected everything like a mirror. At the far end stood 2 thrones, carved from the bones of ancient star beasts. On one throne sat Empress Wasmate. She was almost as old as him, almost as powerful. Her scales were white like snow, and her eyes were blue like ice. She was beautiful and deadly. She had killed 1,000 enemies with her claws alone. When she saw what was carrying, her eyes narrowed. "What is this?" she asked. Her voice was cold. "A human child," said. He walked to his throne and sat down, still holding. "I found her on New Eden. She was alone." "So you brought her here, to our home, to our sacred world?" "Yes." Stood up from her throne. She walked toward, her claws clicking on the stone floor. She stopped in front of him and looked at the small girl. Looked back at her. She did not look away. She did not cry. "It is dirty," said. It smells bad, it is weak and ugly, and it does not belong here. Felt his flame rise again. She is a child. She is prey, we are predators. This is the way of things. Kill it or throw it out. I do not care which. No. The word hung in the air, stared at. In 3,000 years he had never said no to her, not once. They had always agreed on everything. What did you say? I said no, I will not kill her. I will not throw her out, she will stay here. His eyes burned with cold fire. Why would you care about this? This insect, what has happened to you? Have you gone mad? Looked at the child in his arms, was watching the two dragons argue. She looked scared, but she was not crying. She was holding onto his claw, trusting him to protect her. I do not know, said honestly. I do not understand it myself, but when I found her, she was holding her dying father. She was crying for him. She was so small and so alone, and she looked at me without fear. She looked at me like I was not a monster. You are a monster, said. We are both monsters. That is what makes us strong. Her father looked at me the same way. Before he died, he asked me to help her, and I felt something I have not felt in a very long time. I felt like I should help her, like it was the right thing to do. Laughed, it was not a nice laugh. It was sharp and cold. The right thing. Since when do we care about the right thing? We are dragons. We take what we want. We burn what we hate. We do not save human children because it is right. Maybe we should. Stopped laughing. She stared at her mate like she did not know him anymore. You have changed, she said. Something has changed in you. I do not like it. I have not changed, said. Or maybe I have. I do not know, but I know this. I made a promise to a dying man. I told him I would help his daughter. I will not break that promise. A promise to a human. A human means nothing. He was a father. He loved his child more than he loved his own life. That means something. Was silent for a long moment. She looked at. The small girl looked back at her. Then slowly did something unexpected. She smiled. It was a small smile, a tired smile, but it was real. She looked at the fierce white dragon and she smiled at her. Flinched, it was small but saw it. Something in that smile had reached her. You are a fool, said, but her voice was softer now. You are the greatest fool in the galaxy. Perhaps. The court will never accept this. The other dragons will call you weak. They will laugh at you. They might even challenge you for the throne. Let them come. I will burn anyone who tries to take her from me. Stared at him, then she shook her head. You really mean it. You really care about this small, weak, ugly creature. She is not ugly, said. She is brave and she is alone. She has no one else. She has no one because her kind started a war they could not win. She did not start the war. She is 5 years old. She just wanted to sing songs and play with flowers. Now she has nothing, no home, no family, nothing. Was quiet again. She looked at the child for a long time, had stopped smiling. She was looking at with curious eyes, not afraid, just curious. What is your name? Asked suddenly. Blinked, she said. That is a strange name. It means something pretty. My told me, I forget what. Snorted, small flames came out of her nose. You forget your own name's meaning. I was going to ask, but his voice got small. But he went to sleep, he won't wake up. Something changed in his eyes, just for a moment, just for a heartbeat. Then it was gone. I will not help you with this, said Tu. I will not be a mother to a human child. It is ridiculous. It is beneath me. I did not ask you to be her mother. Good, because I will not be. Turned and walked away. Her tail swept behind her, knocking over a stone pillar. She did not look back. But she also did not try to stop him. Looked down at she was watching leave. Her small face was thoughtful. She's angry, said. Yes. Is she angry at me? Thought about it. I think she is angry at me. Why? Because I did something she does not understand. Something I do not understand myself. nodded like this made perfect sense. Then she yawned. She was tired again, so tired. "Can I sleep now?" she asked. Felt something warm in his chest, something that was not fire. "Yes," he said, "you can sleep." "Will you stay with me?" "Yes, I will stay." Curled up against his chest. His scales were hard and cold, but she did not seem to mind. She closed her eyes. Within moments she was asleep. Sat on his throne in his palace on his world. The Dragon King of Prime, the most powerful being in 12-star systems. And he was holding a sleeping human child like she was the most precious thing in the universe. He did not know what he was doing. He did not know what would happen next. He only knew one thing. He had made an impossible choice, and he would not take it back. Not for anything. The news spread across Prime like fire through dry grass. The Dragon King had brought a human child to the sacred world. The Dragon King was keeping her in his palace. The Dragon King had gone mad. At first the other dragons did not believe it. It had to be a joke. It had to be a mistake. Was the strongest, most respected dragon in all the 12 systems. He would never do something so foolish, so weak, so wrong. But it was true. Within a week, the court gathered in the great hall to confront their king. 100 noble dragons stood before his throne, their scales shining in colors of red, gold, silver, and green. They were the leaders of the great families, the keepers of ancient traditions, the guardians of dragon honor. And they were very, very angry. Lord spoke first. He was an old dragon, older even then. His scales were with age, and his voice was like grinding stone. "My king," said, "we have served your family for 10,000 years. We have fought your wars. We have kept your laws, but this cannot stand." Sat on his throne, was not with him. He had left her in his chambers with servants to watch her. He did not want her to see this. "What cannot stand?" asked. "The human, the child, it must be removed." "She is not in it, she is a child, her name is." The dragons murmured to each other. They did not like hearing their king speak about a human with such care. Lady Sara stepped forward. She was younger than, with scales of deep purple. She was known for her sharp tongue and sharper claws. "My king," she said, "we mean no disrespect, but surely you understand our concern. Prime has been pure for 100,000 years. No alien has ever lived here. No human has ever walked on our sacred ground. This is our way. This is our law." "It was my law," said. "I can change it." Change 100,000 years of tradition for one small, weak creature. Why? Was quiet for a moment. He had been asking himself the same question for days. Why did he care? Why did this child matter so much to him? He was the Dragon King. He had everything. He needed nothing. So why? "Because she looked at me," said finally. "Her father was dying. Her world was destroyed. She had nothing. And she looked at me without fear. She looked at me like I was not a monster. Do you know how long it has been since someone looked at me that way?" The dragons were silent. "I have ruled for 3,000 years, continued. "Every creature in the galaxy fears me. They bow, they run, they beg for mercy. But this small child, this tiny human who had lost everything, she looked at me and she saw something else. I do not know what, but I want to find out." Lord shook his great head. "This is foolishness, my king. Weakness. What will the other empires think? What will they say when they learn that the Dragon King is raising a human pet?" "I do not care what they think." "But we do," Lady Sora said. "Our reputation keeps us safe. Our strength keeps us free. If the galaxy thinks we have grown soft." "Then let them test us," said. His voice was hard now, dangerous. "Let them come to our world and try to take her from me. I will burn them all." The dragons shifted uncomfortably. They knew his power. They had seen him destroy entire fleets with his flame. They did not want to fight him. But they were not ready to give up. Lord stepped forward. He was young and proud, with scales of bright gold. He was also ambitious. Everyone knew he wanted the throne. There is another way, said. The old law of challenge, I call upon it now. The hall went silent. The law of challenge was ancient. If any dragon believed the king was unfit to rule, they could challenge him to single combat. The winner would take the throne. Looked at the young dragon. You wish to fight me? For the good of our people, said. For the honor of our race. Yes, I challenge you, defeat me and keep your human pet. Lose and I will throw her into the fire myself. Something cold and terrible rose in his chest. Not just flame, something darker, something he had not felt in a very long time. Rage. You dare threaten her, his voice shook the walls. You dare speak of harming a child. Flinched but held his ground. She is not a child, she is a human, she is nothing. Stood, he was huge. Even among dragons he was enormous. His shadow fell over the entire hall. Then come, said, come and try to take her from me. The fight was over in moments. Was fast and strong. He was one of the best fighters in the kingdom, but was the Dragon King. He had fought for 3,000 years. He had killed creatures that would make scream in terror. His claws found's throat. His flame burned's wings. His tail broke's legs. Within seconds, the young challenger was lying on the ground, bleeding and broken. Stood over him. His golden eyes burned with fury. You threatened her, said. You said you would throw her into the fire. For that, I should kill you. Whimpered, he was not proud anymore. He was just afraid. Please, he whispered. Please, my king, mercy. Looked at the other dragons. They were all watching in silence. They were all afraid. Let this be a lesson, said. Is under my protection. Anyone who tries to harm her will face me. Anyone who speaks against her will face me. She is part of my family now, and family is sacred. He let go. The broken dragon crawled away, whimpering. The court bowed their heads. The challenge was over. The king had won. But knew this was not the end. He saw it in their eyes. They still did not accept. They still thought she was a mistake. They would watch and wait for their chance. He did not care. Let them watch. Let them wait. He would protect her anyway. When returned to his chambers, was awake. She was sitting on his massive bed, which was big enough to hold 10 dragons. She looked tiny in the middle of it. You're back, she said. She smiled when she saw him. Felt his rage fade away. That smile did something to him. It made the cold, dark parts of him feel warm. Yes, he said, I am back. The servants were scared. They said there was fighting. Sat down next to the bed. Even sitting, he towered over her. There was, but it is over now. Did you win? Yes. Nodded, that's good. I knew you would win. How did you know? She looked at him with those dark, brave eyes. Because you're the biggest and the scariest. Always said the biggest and scariest ones win. Made a sound. It took him a moment to realize he was laughing. He could not remember the last time he had laughed. Your father was a wise man, he said. Smile faded a little. I miss him, she said quietly. Did not know what to say. He was not good at comfort. He had never needed to comfort anyone before. I am sorry, he said. It was all he could think to say. It's okay, wiped her eyes. He told me to be brave, so I'm trying. You are very brave. Do you really think so? Yes, you are the bravest person I have ever met. Smiled again. It was a real smile this time, bright and warm. Can I ask you something? She said. Yes. Why are you being nice to me? The other dragons don't like me. They look at me like I'm bad, but you're nice. Why? Thought about it. He thought about the dying man and the crying child. He thought about the way she had looked at him without fear. He thought about the feeling in his chest when she smiled. I do not know, he said honestly. But when I saw you, alone and crying, I wanted to help you. I have never wanted to help anyone before, I think. I think you remind me of something I forgot. What did you forget? Looked at her. This small, weak, fragile human child who had lost everything and was still smiling. I forgot what it feels like to care about something, he said. I forgot what it feels like to want to protect someone. You reminded me. Reached out and touched his claw. Her tiny hand barely covered one scale. I'll remind you every day, she said, so you never forget again. Felt something wet on his face. It took him a moment to realize what it was. A tear. The Dragon King of Prime was crying. He had not cried in 3,000 years. He had not thought he could cry anymore. But this small child, with her brave eyes and her warm smile, had found something inside him that he thought was dead. He wrapped his claws gently around her, not tight enough to hurt, just tight enough to hold. Thank you, he whispered, thank you. She hugged his claw back. You're welcome, she said. That's what family does, right? Family. The word hit him like a star exploding. She had called him family. This small, orphaned child had looked at a monster and decided to call him family. Yes, said, his voice was thick. That is what family does. Outside, the other dragons whispered and plotted. They did not understand. They did not accept. But inside, in the chambers of the Dragon King, something beautiful was beginning. A family was being born. 10 years passed. Grew up in the palace of the Dragon King. She learned to walk the halls of black stone without fear. She learned to speak the dragon language, with its rumbling vowels and hissing consonants. She learned the histories of 100 worlds and the names of 1,000 stars. But she never forgot that she was human. At 15 was still small compared to the dragons around her. She barely reached the knee of the smallest servant. Her body was soft and weak by dragon standards. She could not breathe fire. She could not fly. She could not crush stone with her claws. But she had other strengths. She was smart, smarter than most dragons gave her credit for. She read every book in the royal library. She studied battle tactics and political history. She learned how to see lies in people's eyes and truth in their words. She was kind. She treated the servants with respect. She remembered their names and asked about their families. She helped them when they were sick or sad. Many dragons thought kindness was weakness, knew it was power. And she was brave, so very brave. Watched her grow with pride. He did not try to hide anymore. She was his daughter now, in all the ways that mattered. He had taught her to fight with weapons made for human hands. He had told her stories of ancient battles and great heroes. He had listened to her laugh and dried her tears and held her when she had nightmares about the day her real father died. He loved her. The Dragon King, who had never loved anything, loved this small human girl more than he loved his own life. Had changed too, though she tried to hide it. The Empress still acted cold toward. She still called her weak and small. She still complained about having a human in the palace. But noticed things. He noticed that always made sure there was warm food waiting when came back from her studies. He noticed that had ordered special clothes made for, clothes that were warm and comfortable for human skin. He noticed that when was sick with fever one winter, had stayed outside her door all night, watching. One day asked about it. You care about her, he said. You pretend you do not, but you care. Snorted, I care about nothing. She is annoying. She is loud. She sings silly songs and leaves her things everywhere. You stayed outside her room when she was sick. Was quiet for a moment, then she looked at with her ice blue eyes. She reminds me of someone, said softly. A long time ago, before I was Empress, before I was cold and hard. Who? Myself. Looked away. I was small once, weak. Everyone said I would never survive, but I did. I became strong, I became powerful, and watching her, watching fight to survive in a world that does not want her, it makes me remember. Said nothing, he just put his claw on shoulder. They stood together, watching through a window as practice soared fighting in the courtyard below. She was fighting 3 training machines at once. She was winning. She is special, said quietly. I hate admitting it, but she is. Yes, agreed, she is. Everything changed on his 15th birthday. The Empire had been quiet for 10 years. They had watched the Dragon Kingdom from a distance, waiting, watching, planning. Now they made their move. The attack came at night. 100 warships appeared in the sky above Prime. They had used new technology to hide from the sensors. No one saw them coming until it was too late. The first bombs hit the city below the palace. Fire and death rained from the sky. Dragons screamed and flew to battle, but they were ready. They had weapons that could hurt dragons, weapons that could kill. Rose into the sky with a roar that shook the mountains. His flame was brighter than the sun. He burned ship after ship, his fury unstoppable. Fought beside him, her ice breath freezing soldiers solid. But there were too many. While the king and queen fought in the sky, a small group of soldiers landed at the palace. They moved through the empty halls, killing servants and guards. They had one mission: find the human girl, the Dragon King's weakness, his soft spot, his heart. Heard them coming. She was in her room when the attack started. She had grabbed her sword and her armor. She was not going to hide. She was not going to run. She was the daughter of the Dragon King. She would fight. The first soldier came through her door. He was big and covered in armor. He had a gun that could cut through stone. Moved faster than he expected. Her sword found the gap in his armor. He fell. 2 more soldiers came, then 3 more, then 5. Fought them all. She was not as strong as them. She was not as big, but she was faster. She was smarter. And she had been trained by the Dragon King himself. Bodies piled up at her door. Her arms burned with exhaustion. Her breath came in gasps, but she kept fighting. Finally, there were no more soldiers. Stood in the hallway covered in blood that was not her own. Her hands were shaking. Her heart was pounding, but she was alive. Then she heard it. A sound from the throne room, fighting, roaring, pain. She ran. When burst into the throne room, she saw something that made her blood freeze. Was on the ground. A massive weapon had shot him through the chest. His black scales were cracked and bleeding. He was trying to stand, but he could not. For the first time in his 3,000 years, the Dragon King was helpless. Over him stood the general. He was the biggest had ever seen. He wore golden armor and carried a sword as tall as a tree. He was laughing. "The mighty Dragon King," the general said. "Look at you now, broken, weak, dying." He raised his sword. "Your kingdom will burn, your people will serve us, and your precious human pet will watch it all." Did not think, she just moved. She grabbed a fallen spear from a dead guard. She ran toward the general. She was small and weak and human. She had no chance against a monster like him. But she ran anyway. The general saw her coming. He laughed harder. "Look at this, the pet thinks she can fight." He swung his sword at her. Dropped and slid under the blade. She came up on the other side and drove her spear into his leg, finding the gap where his armor joined. The general screamed. He stumbled. Did not stop. She climbed up his body like climbing a mountain. She grabbed his helmet and pulled it off. She looked into his eyes. "You hurt my father," she said. Then she drove her sword through his throat. The general fell. The biggest, strongest warrior fell, killed by a small human girl. Ran too. He was still breathing, but barely. His golden eyes were dim. He whispered, "You should have run." "I don't run," she said. Tears were streaming down her face. "You taught me that." "I taught you to survive." "No, you taught me to protect my family, and you're my family." Made a sound. It might have been a laugh. Stubborn human. Stupid dragon. They looked at each other. Despite everything, they smiled. Found them like that. She had finished destroying the last of the ships. She landed in the throne room and saw the dead general, the wounded king, and the small human girl holding his claw. "What happened?" demanded. "She saved me," said. "This small, weak, fragile human saved my life." Really looked at her, maybe for the first time. was covered in blood and dirt. Her hands were shaking from exhaustion. She had fought alone against impossible odds, and she had won. "You killed the general," said. "It was not a question." "He hurt my father," said simply. "I had to." Was quiet for a long moment. Then she did something she had never done before. She bowed. The Empress of Prime, the most powerful female dragon in the galaxy, bowed to a 15-year-old human girl. "I was wrong about you," said. "I called you weak. I called you a pet. I was wrong. You have more fire in your heart than any dragon I have ever known." Blinked. "I thank you." "Do not thank me. Just promise me something." "What?" Looked at her with those ice-blue eyes. "Promise me you will always protect him, the way you did today, the way he has protected you." Looked at her father, her family, the monster who had become the best person she had ever known. "I promise," she said. "I'll protect him forever." Nodded. Then slowly she lowered herself to the ground beside. She let her wing cover both him and surrounding them with warmth. "Then you are not just his daughter," said. "You are my daughter too." Stared at her. Then she started crying again. But these were not sad tears. These were happy tears, the happiest tears of her life. "Mother," she whispered. Flinched, but she did not pull away. Instead, she pulled closer. "Daughter," she said. Watched them. His wound was bad. He might die. He did not know what would happen next. But in that moment, seeing his mate hold his daughter, he felt something he had not felt in 3,000 years. He felt complete. He felt like he had a family. Outside, the battle was ending. They were retreating. The dragons were winning. And in the throne room, covered in blood and tears and love, a new family was being born. A family of 3. A family of 2 worlds. A family that would change everything. 5 more years passed. Survived his wound, though the scar never fully healed. It crossed his chest like a river of silver, a reminder of the night his daughter saved his life. He wore it with pride. Every dragon who saw it knew the story. The Dragon King had been saved by a human. At first, many dragons were ashamed. Their king saved by a weak, small creature. It was embarrassing, it was wrong. But slowly, opinions began to change. They saw in the council meetings, speaking with wisdom beyond her years. They saw her in the training grounds, fighting with skill and courage. They saw her walking through the cities, talking to common dragons and servants like they were equals. They saw her smile and laugh and cry. They saw her humanity. And some of them began to understand. Humans were not weak, they were different. Where dragons lived for thousands of years and thought slowly, humans lived fast and thought faster. Where dragons relied on their scales and flames, humans used tools and tricks and cunning. Where dragons stood alone, humans stood together. The knight fought the general. She had done something no dragon could have done. She had moved faster than he expected. She had found weaknesses he did not know he had. She had used her small size as an advantage, not a curse. She had been human. And being human, it turned out, was not weakness at all. On's 20th birthday called another gathering in the Great Hall. Every noble dragon was there. Every family. Every leader. They filled the hall from wall to wall, their scales glittering like a sea of jewels. This time they were not angry, they were curious. Stood before his throne at his side. Stood between them, dressed in royal armor that had been made just for her. It was black like scales and white likes. It fit her perfectly. "My people," said, his voice echoed through the hall. 20 years ago I found a child on a dead world. She was alone and crying. Her father had just died in her arms. She had nothing. The dragons listened in silence. I brought her here against all our laws and traditions. Many of you thought I was mad. Many of you wanted her gone. Many of you challenged me. He paused. His golden eyes swept across the crowd. You were wrong. The dragons shifted uncomfortably, but no one spoke. This child grew up among us. She learned our ways, she respected our culture. But she also taught us things. She taught us about kindness and patience. She taught us about courage that does not come from scales or flame. She taught us that strength is not just about power. It is about heart. She looked back at him with those dark, brave eyes. The same eyes that had looked at him without fear on that ruined world so many years ago. 5 years ago, she saved my life. The general, the strongest warrior in their empire, fell to her blade, not because she was bigger or stronger, because she was braver, because she loved her family more than she feared death. The hall was completely silent now. I have ruled for 3,000 years, continued. In all that time I have never named an heir. I did not think anyone was worthy, but now I know I was waiting. I was waiting for her. The dragons gasped. Murmurs spread through the crowd like fire. Said, turning to face her, "You are my daughter, not by blood but by something stronger, by choice, by love, by the promise I made to your dying father." His eyes were filling with tears. She had not expected this. "I name you my heir," said. "When I am gone, you will rule the dragon kingdom. You will be the first human to sit on the throne of Prime." The murmurs became shouts. Some dragons cried out in protest, others roared in approval. The hall was chaos. Lord, the oldest dragon, stepped forward. Everyone fell silent. "My king," said. His voice was slow and heavy with age. "This is unprecedented. In 10,000 years, no alien has ever ruled our people. How can you ask us to accept this?" Looked at the old dragon. "I do not ask you to accept it, I command it." "But—" "No," his voice was sharp, final. "I have given everything to this kingdom. My years, my flame, my blood. I have fought wars and made peace. I have built and destroyed and protected. And now I am telling you that this human girl, this daughter of my heart, is worthy to rule after me. If you cannot trust my judgment after 3,000 years, then you were never truly my people." Was silent. He looked at for a long moment. "Child," he said finally, "young one, human, tell me, why should we follow you? What can you offer us that a dragon cannot?" Stepped forward. She was so small compared to the ancient dragon, but she did not seem small. She seemed powerful. "I cannot offer you scales," she said. Her voice was clear and strong. "I cannot offer you flame or claws or wings, but I can offer you something else." "What?" "A different way of seeing." Looked around the hall at all the dragons watching her. "For thousands of years you have been alone, the greatest power in the galaxy, but alone. You do not have allies, you have subjects. You do not have friends, you have servants." The dragons listened. "Humans are different. We are weak alone, but together we are strong. We build families and communities and nations. We protect each other. We lift each other up. That is how we survived." She took a breath. "If I become your queen, I will not make you weak. I will make you stronger, because I will show you how to build something better than an empire. I will show you how to build a family that includes not just dragons, but all the peoples of the galaxy who are willing to stand with us." The hall was quiet. His words hung in the air. Then Lady Sara stepped forward, the dragon with purple scales who had once demanded its removal. "I hated you," Sara said. "When you first came here, I wanted you gone. You were strange and weak and wrong." Nodded, "I know. But I watched you grow, I watched you fight, I watched you save our king." Sora lowered her head. "I was wrong, you are not weak, you are different, and different is not bad." She turned to the other dragons. "I support this decision," Sora said. "Should be our heir." Silence, then another dragon stepped forward, and another, and another. One by one, the noble dragons bowed their heads. Not all of them. Some still refused. Some walked out of the hall in anger. But most stayed. Most bowed. Lord was the last. The oldest dragon looked at with his ancient eyes. "You are brave," he said. "You are wise, you love our king like a true daughter, perhaps that is enough." He bowed his great head. I accept you as heir. Felt tears streaming down her face. She had hoped for acceptance, but she had never expected this. This moment, this trust. Put his claw on her shoulder, did the same from the other side. They stood together, the three of them, a family. Today history changes, announced. Today we begin a new era, an era where dragons and humans are not enemies, not strangers but family. The hall erupted in cheers. Not all the dragons cheered, but enough did, enough to shake the walls and fill the air with sound. Looked up at her father. Did you plan this from the beginning? She asked. Smiled. No. When I found you, I did not know what I was doing. I just knew I could not leave you alone. Then why? Why did you do all this? Thought about it. He thought about the crying child on the ruined world. He thought about the promise he made to a dying father. He thought about all the years of watching grow, learning from her, loving her. Because you taught me something, he said finally. What? That family is not about blood. It is not about scales or species or power. It is about choice. It is about deciding to love someone, to protect them, to stand with them no matter what. He looked at her with those golden eyes. I chose you, and I would choose you again, 1,000 times, 1,000,000 times. Hugged him. She pressed her face against his great chest, feeling his warmth through his scales. I chose you too, she whispered. The day you picked me up from the ruins, I chose you. The scary dragon who looked at me without hate. You were my family from that moment. Wrapped her wing around them both. We are all fools, she said, but she was smiling. Fools who love each other. The best kind of fools, agreed. They stood together in the great hall, surrounded by cheering dragons, holding each other. A human girl who had lost everything and found a new world. A dragon king who had forgotten how to love and remembered. An empress who had been cold and learned to be warm. A family made not of blood, but of choice. And in that moment, watching from the stars, the spirit of a man named smiled. His daughter was safe. His daughter was loved. His daughter was going to be a queen. He had asked a monster to help her. And the monster had become a father. Some stories end with battles won or kingdoms saved, but the best stories end with something simpler. They end with family. And this family, this strange and beautiful family of dragons and humans, was only just beginning. The galaxy would never be the same. But that is another story. For now it was enough to stand together, to hold each other, to be family. It was enough. It was everything.